Hi everyone. Okay, awesome. Hi Bethany, how are you?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. How's the weather?
The weather today is beautiful. Of course, where I am, it's lunchtime. Where you are, it's more brunch time.
Yeah, I like brunching.
Yes, you look good in red.
Yes, thank you. Red Rock team. We need to
Oh, that's true. I like polka dots.
talk about. Awesome. Okay, I guess we have everybody tuning in, and um, my name is Dasha Jamieson. I'm from Red Rock Pastels Society of Nevada, and we have gorgeous Bethany Fields
Oh,
joining us, and she's kindly invited us to see her studio today and answer a
yes.
few questions.
Yes, I'm so glad. Thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to talking to you and your members and other pastelists around the world. It's really fun to be able to reach people this way.
Yeah, it's what we have to do right now. So,
Yes, that's true.
so I got to ask you, do you have more time painting during quarantine or less?
This is really pretty much the same for me since I work in my home studio every day. Usually my kids are going off to school and then I have the day to paint and work in my studio. So really it's about the same. Nothing for me has really changed as much because I paint every day and I work every day in my studio. I'm so blessed to be able to do that. And since it's in my home, I can just come downstairs and I usually grab a cup of coffee and then I just get started with the day.
Cup of coffee is a great idea.
Yes, cup of coffee.
So, you say you have kids. How many do you have?
I have 3 kids. I have almost 3 teenagers. So my oldest is 19 and he's in college. My middle one is almost 16. He is in high school. And then I have a little girl and she is almost 13 and she is in junior high.
Wow, so you have time to paint in your home studio with 3 teenagers.
I do. You know, normally they're at school. And really that is one of the reasons why I started painting with pastels in the first place was because when they were, especially when they were really young, I wanted to develop that creative side of me. And I knew that I didn't have time to, especially like learning oil painting was, you know, the brushes and being able to clean up in the studio after I finished a piece. Pastel was so easy because I could work on a little painting. I could wash my hands during, you know, I could work on a piece while they were at nap time. And then I could wash my hands and then I could go on with my day being a mom. And so really that's one reason why I chose pastel as my main form of creation. And I have loved it and I just have never, I can't quit it. I love it.
So when did you start painting?
I first started painting in pastels when my daughter was about 1, so almost 12 years ago. And that was, you know, I had actually purchased a pastel, and let me show it to you really quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hi, everyone.
I had purchased this little pastel from an artist from Jerusalem, and I had bought it on Etsy. And it's on, the paper that it's on is actually a piece of grocery sack paper. But I loved it. And my daughter was so little.
Let me turn off the comments for a little bit so we can see you better, okay?
Okay.
So, yeah.
And
Sorry,
so I had bought,
bring you back. Please.
Okay, I had bought this little painting and I loved the texture. It was so buttery and this reminded me of my little girl. That's why I bought it. And so my personality is kind of is kind of one that I love to learn. I'm a learner. I love to learn so many different things. And so I decided to try pastel, and that was about 12 years ago. Of course, I was a complete beginner. I had no idea. I didn't know anyone else who painted in pastel. And so I kind of did some online, just kind of searching around to try to find some information about it. And eventually, after kind of playing with it for about a year, my kids were always in it, and it just became a little too hard to study it like I wanted to. So I put my pastels away just in a closet. I just packed them up and put them away until about 2014. And that's when I pulled them back out of the closet. They were as good as new. Of course, pastels you can use them. They don't dry out. They are fresh and vibrant all the time. And I decided to, in 2014, kind of whenever the daily painting, it was a big thing. Like painting a day became very popular. And so I decided to sit down in this room right here was actually my guest bedroom. And I decided to paint a little 5x5 piece every single day. And that's really when I started developing more technique and really got much more involved in our local pastel society here where I live is the Lone Star Pastel Society. And so I became a member of that. And then also became a member gradually of other organizations and just started painting bigger and larger and exhibiting. And so it just kind of all was a snowball after 2014.
So any of your kids are involved in pastel painting or?
No, some of them are, my middle one especially is really good at critiquing.
My own art critic, personal.
Yes, he loves to come in and he really looks at the pieces and gives me his opinion. My daughter is very artistic. He is also very artistic, but he loves to sketch and draw, mostly pen and ink type work. My oldest always gives me ideas for what to name the pieces. I think that is probably one of the hardest things for me is to name my paintings. Yeah. And my daughter, she'll come in and I'll let her use, especially like new pastels and Rembrandts because they're a little less messy for children. And so she'll come in sometimes and we play and work together on pastels.
And you mentioned that you are a member of several pastel societies. So that's very interesting. So you can be a member of a few pastel societies. You don't have to.
You can be a member of many pastel societies. You don't have to just live where that pastel society is. I'm a member of PSA, which is my main home pastel society, which is based in New York City. And I was lucky enough I got to teach at PSA at the National Arts Club back in November, which was
such a big deal. Like if you don't know, like it's a huge deal.
It is. I had to pinch myself. It was pretty amazing to be able to visit New York and be able to teach there. Thank you. I'm also a member of the Degas Pastel Society, which is in New Orleans. The Lone Star Pastel Society here, of course, and a few others. And some of those are because of what the Red Rocks Pastel Society is doing right now, which is having a member show, and which I'm so excited to be able to jury for you guys. And so a lot of people, from all over can join that Red Rocks Pastel Society to be able to enter
thank
that
you
show.
So much for shout out. And we're delighted to have you among our jurors. And thank you for letting us to use one of your amazing paintings in the background. So I have to say thank you to Katya, who put it together to fit this screen right now. So
yes, Katya is such a friend of mine. She's wonderful.
Yeah, so she will be mad what I'll talk too much, but guys, please stay tuned and we're gonna see Bethany Fields studio and she's gonna answer a few more questions about the show and just about her pastel journey. But I got to tell the personal story. So Katya was telling me how much she enjoyed IF's show and what a delight was meeting artists, and she specifically named you, like how wonderful and sweet you were, and I was a big fan. Like I was following your Instagram for a couple of years already, and I Yes, like that's nice. And I used to people being nice in art circles, but when like was walking around this hallway at IEPS and I saw you, and I was kind of shy, and I like I'm a big fan. Hi, and you just was so sweet. So I immediately got what Katya is talking about, and the comments what we got at like when we announced what you're gonna be. On our live shows, the comments is from everybody. Yes, we love Bethany Fields. Yes, she's gorgeous inside and out. So I was just gonna tell you, like, thank you so much.
So sweet.
You just brighten up everywhere you go. So doing that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love people. I'm a people person. I love to meet new friends. And of course, being from, I'm from Texas. We're a friendly state. We love people. And so I remember meeting Katya because I remember, and that was in 2017, because she had her Instagram, she had a badge on her backpack that said her Instagram name. And I, of course, am on Instagram here as B Fields. And so we immediately kind of clicked because we both had our, I know you and I know you. Yeah. And then we just hung out every time we saw each other. So IAPS is such a wonderful experience.
It's awesome. Looking forward to 2021 and meeting all the artists.
Yes.
Around. So and guys, after we take a look at Bethany's studio, we're gonna bring back comments.
Yes.
Or if you have questions, you can type on a little question mark in the bottom of your screen, and you can type your question there if you want to.
Yes.
So please show us around.
Okay, so do you want me to show you kind of my little studio?
Show us your studio.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, so this is my desk right here. This is kind of how you enter my studio. And this is some of my pastels, but this is my main working set. Now, I like to try to kind of keep a limited palette. So I am not one that has every single set or every single brand. I do have them a little bit separated. Of course, right now they really need cleaning. But I have them from, value-wise, from light to dark. And then I also have kind of an area over here that is more my gray colors.
Churros.
And then right here, these are my beautiful Giroux. I have them kind of separated, cools and warms. This is my wonderful Heilman box that I take whenever I'm plein air painting. And this is a box that I've had for a long, long time. I almost need one that's a little bit bigger. So that's something I'm working towards. And then these, whenever I have little pie plates or right over here, you can see that I have some, set aside. This is for whenever I'm teaching my online classes. This is usually how I share the palettes that I am working on. That way, find them quickly without having to put them back in their spots and then lose which one I was working on. I also, of course, have some wonderful Richesons. These are, I keep my Terry Ludwig. This is the Umbers collection. I keep those separate just because I really like that set to be there. So then I also have my easel right here by my window. And let me walk over here and show you guys. I have my easel and I have some lighting that I put on and just some, recent pieces. I did this one last week as a live stream for my Patreon members. And then this is a lesson that just went out today. But I paint a lot. I have paintings. This is another practice piece of this same piece that's right here. So I'll do, a scene maybe a couple of times. This is a very recent, This is a very recent one right here. That's going to be a lesson here in a couple of weeks. And then I just have, there's that painting right there. That's the one that was on your...
Yes, let me bring it back right here.
Yes.
Okay.
So here's this one. This is a recent one. And I live, so the Rock Pastels Society, of course, I live in the Texas Panhandle. And one of the features that we have here is Paladuro Canyon. Paladuro Canyon is the second largest canyon in the United States. And so I am so lucky. So this is a Paladuro Canyon. This is another one. These are all on UArt. mounted boards.
So,
And
yeah, you send us those too when you can read your bio. Like,
yes.
that's amazing.
And so these are all, you know, some of these are lessons from my online classes. Some of them are just my own personal work. But I have my art kind of everywhere in this room, just around. And so, you know, more over here. I'm kind of running out of room. This is a lesson from last summer. I have lots of them, lots and lots. And this is my pretty grandmother. And then this one right there. So that's, you know, a small little space, but I feel so blessed to have it. You know, when I first started painting, I would sit on the floor with, you know, just a piece of paper taped to some cardboard, and I would paint. And then slowly I started kind of taking over this room until I was pretty much using the whole thing.
Okay, I brought comments back.
Oh, yay.
Hi, everyone. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Dasha Jamison with Rock Pastels Society of Nevada, and we have Bethany Fields. She just showed us her studio, so if you're going to watch on the replay, you will have a chance to see it. And please stay tuned. If you have any questions, you can press little button with a question mark and type it, and I continue with my list. So thank you again for showing us around.
Oh, of course. And if you have any questions about anything in here, I can always show it again. I know I kind of did a quick little tour.
Oh, it was fascinating. So I have a question.
Okay.
What is your favorite surface to use? You mentioned some of your paintings done on UArt.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite?
I probably use UArt more than any other paper. I usually get it by the roll because that way I can cut my own. And since I paint a lot. I paint probably, you know, 5 paintings a week. And so it's helpful for me to have that ability. And I can also kind of, you know, switch up the sizes if I want by having my own roll. And I love the 500 grit UArt. And I love the mounted boards, like this one that is on that. This is one of their premium mounted boards, and they're pretty nice. Although it's a little different. I'm used to using unmounted, so like that one that you can see right there, this one is unmounted, and so it's taped to my foam core just while I'm working on it.
So do you mount your own paper, or you?
I don't mount my own paper. If I want to mount it, I take it to my framer, and they have a nice dry mount press that they can dry mount it to some acid-free foam core or gator board.
So I have a question
yes.
from Deb Mason Fine Art. So let me read it. Which artist would you say was the greatest influence, past masters and contemporary artists?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, of course, I think all of us, maybe whenever I first discovered pastel, Richard McKinley was the one that I saw, and I just loved his work so much. And then, of course, I really started looking around. I come from a theater background. My background is in singing and dancing and acting on stage. And so I didn't grow up with a painting background like so many other artists. I grew up from a very artistic background, but it wasn't necessarily in painting. Of course, I've always loved Monet and Degas, but they were, you know, it was kind of on the side of what I was actually studying, which was acting and singing. And so now that I'm very immersed in the painting world, I'm discovering new artists I love all the time that I hadn't known about, other than the main impressionists. I'm always, you know, amazed by so many artists that I see. I love Nancy Nowak. She's an incredible artist. Yeah. I really admire her work. I love Joe Cluck. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a fun artist. I'm trying to think, of course, there's so many, my mind is blanking. I have a good friend in Oklahoma named Judy Toller. She's a fantastic pastelist.
She participated in a last year show.
Yes.
Yes. She's a member. Yes, I remember her work.
She's a fun lady. She's so talented and just, she has such a sparkling personality and it matches her paintings.
This is awesome. This is awesome. So who was your first offline teacher? You say was it Richard McKinley?
I never had it. I had never had a teacher until my very first workshop that I ever took was 2 years ago. I taught myself pretty much through observation and just a lot. I mean, painting thousands of little tiny pieces. But my first teacher, can you hear me?
Yes. I just say practice.
Yeah, practice, yes. So my first workshop that I ever took was from Lorenzo Chavez out of Parker, Colorado. He came down because he loves to paint canyons, and he's a plein air painter. He loves to paint the Southwest, which is where I live. And he taught a plein air workshop at Paladuro Canyon. And that was my very first time I'd ever, and I was already a signature member by that point of PSA. Wow. So I had never taken from a teacher before.
Wow. This is inspiring. So that's a kind of a theme. With a hard work and daily practice, you can become signature member of PSA. And last I asked where we met, they were electing you in master circles.
I did. So I have my medal. You want to see my medal? It's right over here. I love it. It's right there. There's my medal. That was such a thrill to get that and to get it from Richard as he was standing on stage, which, you know, he's you know, so incredible. So that was wonderful.
Yes. And like I took several times from Richard, his workshops, and he uses so much metaphors, what is theatrical, and he has some artistic background as well from his group in Oregon and stuff, so like you can relate definitely, like, and he uses it in his book, so you definitely can relate.
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
So speaking about member societies and exhibitions, so why anyone should enter exhibition, and like why would you?
I first started entering, my first show that I was ever in was a local Lone Star Pastels Society group show. And it was the first time I had ever hung. It was at a little art center in a nearby town, a very small venue. But it was so encouraging to be able to hang on those walls and see all of the other pastel art up against yours. It heightens your ability to critique your own work, see what other people are doing. It just elevates your style. And, you know, since then I've been in many shows, and every time I get to go to one, it just makes me want to get better because other people are so inspiring in their art and what they do.
So what do you think about online show? Like,
online shows are fantastic because you don't have to pay for shipping. I, you know, tell all of my students, if there's an opportunity to be in an online show, enter it because it still goes on your resume. You can put it on your resume for other online exhibitions or other opportunities you may have coming up. And you don't have to pay to frame your piece. You don't have to pay to ship your piece. You don't have to pay to ship it back to you if it doesn't sell. So it's very affordable. It's an affordable way to get into an exhibit.
Yes, thank you so much. And by the way, Rock Pastels Society have online exhibition right now, and we extended entry deadline till April 25th. So please. Thank you. Please become a member and participate. Thank you so much for shouting out. And you mentioned you teaching on Patreon. I was trying to bring it up on the screen, but it is not the best screenshot what I took.
That's okay. That's okay. So, I can tell a little bit about it. I've been teaching on Patreon for a little over a year. I started last January. Since I have a background in performance and theater. Years ago, I had started a YouTube channel of just showing a few time lapses and some techniques. And I decided to go onto Patreon just because I knew I would be able to reach more people this way. And of course, support my work and this is my job. And so I have loved it because it's a wonderful platform to be able to teach. I put out weekly, every Monday, I have a new video lesson, a full-length video lesson with commentary and materials. And then on Thursdays, I post sometimes an art lesson, sometimes what I call museum visits, where we study classic artists that kind of fit within the theme of the month. I do live painting lessons. I do Q&As. I do lots of stuff. But it has been wonderful to have that.
What caught me off guard is the price. Like for $2, you can become.
Well, for $2, that's my first level. Which Patreon. The whole idea behind it is to bring back the classic patron-artist relationship that, has been in society for thousands of years. The $2 level is a strict patron. You don't get the full lessons for that. My $6 a month tier is what Patreon calls it. $6 per month.
Starbucks.
You get all the lessons, all of the content for $6. Of course, it's kind of like Netflix in that you can subscribe and have access to this information. There's no long-term commitment. You can subscribe, and then if you need to take a step back, you can unsubscribe. And at that point, of course, you don't have access to that information anymore. But it is wonderful. It helps support me. It helps me teach students all over the world. Last week, I had a live session where we had maybe 12 different countries were involved, and I felt like they were my friends in my studio, and I was having a chance to teach them. And so it's just a really positive, especially in this day when we're all stuck at home, trying to make the best of it. It's been really wonderful to have that.
This is wonderful. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing with us. I have a couple of more questions. So, and this is like about students. So when you stop being a student and you're ready to enter the show, it's a question what a lot of our members asking, like they taking online lessons, going to workshops, but when it's not your teacher's work anymore, when it becomes your own, and when can you enter the show?
Well, what I would say, I get a lot of questions because whenever I'm teaching, I provide usually a reference photo, and I show people how, like that one right there was my live from last week. This one is my lesson that's this week. And so I try to tell people that, yes, I'm providing you a reference photo, and this is the step-by-step that I take to create a piece. Now, if a student was then to paint that painting and enter it in a show, that wouldn't be allowed because it wasn't their vision in the first place to create that. But if they take the techniques that I'm utilizing, the specific ways, I love to use paintbrushes with my pastels, and I talk a lot about value and color and the ways I'm mark making. Those things you can take as a student into your own reference image, paint it, and then submit it. It's just that you don't want to, copy a teacher and then claim that work for yourself.
Yeah, that's sometimes touchy subject, and I just remember you was trying to educate your students on social media, what is yours and what is lesson, and I think you've been heard. So
Yes. And you know, some people don't know. They think, you know, they don't know the proper rules. But we want, you know, as a juror, as a fellow artist that also enters other exhibits, I enter exhibits all the time. You know,
Yeah.
you want people to, you know, have their own take on a piece of artwork that they're creating from the ground up. And so much of what I try to do, you know, my lessons aren't a paint by number. I don't want people to have that handicap that they can only create a piece of art if they're following an exact order of operation. I try to teach people technique and ideas and the, you know, the lessons of fine art, value, shape, line, edges. We're talking about, you know, vibrancy, different ways to create atmospheric perspective. I want to teach all of those things so then that artist can take all of those elements and use it in their own piece of art.
Oh, this is amazing. This is a very different approach. That's what separates you from just paint by numbers to educator. So to teach how to paint in pastel or paint in general. So you can apply these principles to whatever anybody would do.
Well, yes, and because I want my, you know, I want them to improve. I want them to feel confident that they can improve. You know, one thing that I love to do on my Patreon channel is I do what are called paintings from the past, which is where I show a piece that is a very, very early painting of mine that has a lot of basic mistakes. And I show my students, I take that painting and I'll repaint it, or I'll repaint something very similar to show them how over time, gradually, with a lot of dedication, determination, and practice, you will improve. It's the same thing as a pianist that wants to play at Carnegie Hall. They're going to play their scales every single day to be able to reach a level of that fine, you know, that fine ability to do that. And so I think it's the same thing for an artist in their studio, just to immerse ourselves as much as we can. Remember to find joy in what we're doing. It's not all just about striving and you know, beating ourselves up. We have to find the joy of why we're painting in the first place. Yes, we have to find joy, especially now. You know, remember why we love it. Give ourselves grace for when we paint a bad painting and move on to the next one.
I have a couple of more questions left, and we're gonna wrap. So this will be up on our Instagram TV later. And
oh, good.
So a couple of more questions. How do you deal with rejections?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's just doesn't feel good, for one, and it's okay to feel sad about being rejected. I have been rejected recently from shows that I really wanted to be in. And you have to just understand that it is a subjective process to get into a show, and it doesn't mean you are a bad painter. If you don't get into a show, it just means that specific juror had a opinion or even, you know, taste. Like, it can be a total taste thing about what they like to see. So I say take 24 hours to feel sad about it and then move on. I kind of think that for me, since I come from an acting background, I think of entering shows the same as an audition process. Yeah. And I've been on lots and lots and lots of auditions, auditioning for a character or a play or a musical that I really wanted to be in. Sometimes I got the role and sometimes I didn't. And you just have to keep trying and not let it get to you. You know, remember why you're creating in the first place. It's not for approval of man. It's for joy that it creates in our heart. I have, I don't think you can read it, but on my chalkboard right back here, it says paint from your heart. And I always try to remember that, that getting into shows is wonderful, but for me, it's not why I'm painting. I want to paint because it makes me happy, and I try to put out beauty into the world, and that is what is most important to me. And so if I get in a show, it's almost, you know, it's the cherry on top, but it's not the whole cake.
Thank you so much. And Couple of more questions. Like, do you usually paint standing up or sitting down?
I always paint standing up. And one thing that I like to do is I have my palette here. I'll show you. Let me turn around. So here's my easel here. Sorry for the camera angle. I'm walking around. I have my easel right here by this window. And this is a west facing window, which isn't the best because it gets really harsh light during, you know, especially when the sun is setting. And so I do have nice lights that I put on. But I don't, you'll notice that I don't have any pastels anywhere around my easel. I have them behind me and to my right. I'm right-handed. And so one thing that I love to do is whenever I'm working on a painting and I need a new color, I need a new value, I have to turn around and walk all the way over here to pick it out, because that helps me look at my painting from a distance. I'm stepping back almost every time I change a color. Instead of being stuck, you know, right here where having pastels right here, I love stepping away, you know, coming over here to my palette and then turning around and seeing the piece. It just helps me figure out the values. It helps me see little issues that need fixing. Of course, as painters, we are problem solvers all the time. And that is what a lot of it is problem solving what we're currently working on and how can we fix it.
This is awesome. And do you paint in quiet or you listening to something?
I'm always listening to music. I like instrumental music a lot. I love listening to the cello because I'm a landscape painter, and to me the cello is really earthy. And so anything to do with the cello, I put in little wireless earbuds, because since I film pretty much all the paintings I paint, I film for my classes. Since I put out so many lessons, I don't have, you know, I have to take advantage of every time I have a painting session to record it. And since I do a lot of voiceovers, I listen to my earbuds so it doesn't affect the video.
This is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's it what I have for today. Thank you so much for inviting us to your studio. Thank you so much for answering all the questions and showing us around.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. Everyone, you know, enter the show. I know it's going to be beautiful. Dasha is such an amazing artist herself, and the organization is so wonderful, and I'm so honored and excited to see all of your artwork.
Thank you so much. And please follow Red Rock. If you don't, please follow Bethany Fields. She's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Patreon. And you can subscribe to Patreon. To enter Red Rock Show, stay tuned. We will have more live interviews. And this live interview is available for 24 hours and later on Instagram TV. Stay tuned, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Bethany.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.